How y'all doing out there in video land? This Stiletto coming at you from the Wild Wild West. Well, I just want to have a little discussion video, people, about one of my most favorite new mega folders. Yes, the Mayhem. I absolutely love my Mayhem, people. I've taken it with me a few times now and on rides, and it's an awesome knife. It is heavy, but it's so cool. I don't care. I'm sure that's the way a lot of people feel about their Rajas and their XL Espadas too. The people that, it really, works for them. But I absolutely love this one. And I know Donnie Be Good all day, bent the tip on his, throwing it into some wood. And, it's upset him about the customer service at Cold Steel. And I've been through, some issues with Cold Steel before too, their customer service. And I don't have nothing good to report about it. And I don't want to go into that. But, he's worried about the heat treat on his blade. And I agree with him, for the blade to just bend like that, I think probably it did have a low heat treat, if it was heat treated. Mine seems to be, I don't know, because I've used it, and this blade is like razor all the way. And so, I don't know if he just got a bad one, but I wouldn't be throwing these blades, people, because this is not a reinforced tip. Go look at your Espada, and I don't know, most of your Cold Steel knives, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Like the counterpoint is reinforced because the center line comes all the way to the point, and so you got point one, you got reinforcement going, horizontally, and plus the blade that's vertically. So you got a lot of reinforcement on that tip, which is that's the reason why it's pretty much a famous combat style knife. It's a bayonet blade. Bayonet's been used for, I don't know, since what, the Civil War, maybe earlier. I don't know. Bayonet style blades have been around forever for combat. And so they're highly, highly, highly proven to be good blade types for a combat blade. And that's one reason why I like the counterpoints, and I like bayonet style stilettos, because I like that blade type because I know the tip is fairly strong. But this tip right here, I don't know if you can see it, people. I wouldn't call it this one. This knife is made more like a butcher knife. It's like a folding butcher knife, like a folding meat cleaver. It's like a scimitar, like a folding scimitar. And so the blade tip is not reinforced like that. Scimitars were slashing swords. They were swords that you were supposed to slash with. You're not supposed to throw them. They're not throwing knives. So not all knives are meant to be throwers. Some knives are meant to be, like slashers or slicers, or, they're not meant to have, super heavy duty tip types or whatever. And this knife to me is meant to be a folding fighter, people. It's not a camp knife. This is not a folding camp knife. If you want a folding camp knife, go get the 5 Max. That's a folding camp knife. The 5 Max is a folding survival knife, camp knife. That's the way I would think of a 5 Max. This is a fighter. This is meant to intimidate. Strike fear in man's heart from the sight of the blade. Absolutely love it, people. But that's the way I think of this one. And, and when Joe X tested this, that's what made me want to get one of these. I want one before, but when I saw Joe X test it, do his destruction test on it, that made me really want one. But when he broke the tip fairly easy. So that made me think, comparing to what Johnny B, because I watched Johnny B throw it, and I watched the tip bend or whatever, or Donnie B Good. I keep saying Johnny. I'm sorry, people. Donnie B Good, throw it, and I watched the tip bend. He threw it up, wood, fairly hard from a distance, and when it hit, it stuck, but it did like this and bent. But this is a very heavy knife, so you got a lot of weight and force and stuff moving back, sideways. And if the blade's not reinforced, I would have sort of expected to snap if it's got a fairly good temper on it. What do y'all think? I mean, if it was heat treated up to, let's say, I don't know, in between a 58 to 60 RC or something like that, I would expect it to snap. This is Japanese, this is ingot steel. This is Japanese AUS 10A, which is not as tough as Japanese AUS 8A. Japanese 8A is known to be tougher to 10A, but it doesn't hold the edge like 10A because 10A is a harder steel. It's harder steel. It was created because they want to improve the edge holding over 8A. And so it's more brittle than 8A. That's what I'm trying to tell you. So if it's tempered properly, I would expect it to be a little bit on the brittle side. Like if you did something like what Johnny B did, where he threw it at the wood from a distance, and it hit, and it went and the weight of the blade wanted to carry it this way or this way, I would expect this tip to snap. And his bent, so it makes me wonder about the heat treat on his. I wonder. But then the one that Joe X did was a Japanese AUS 10A one also, just like Donnie B's and mine. They're all 10A knives, 10A Mayhems, and his snapped, and then he even like broke the edges on this, like it looked like this was tempered high too, the edges, and then he broke the blade, but he couldn't break the lock. He had to actually pound on the lock to break the lock. This is a very strong lock, people. That's one thing I really like about the construction of this one is the actual handle. Because I've taken this all the way apart and I know exactly how it's built, and it's a super strong build. I would expect this knife to be very, very strong. Because I think GSM Cold Steel, they want it to be a knife that could be, competing with the triads, the Andrew Demko triads. So I think they intentionally overbuilt this lock. This lock is very strong. This lock bar is thick. And so, and you can see these pins. These pins are all solid pins and they're super thick. That's the way Andrew Demko used to do things. He used to always use solid pins, not screwed in pins, not hollow pins. That's one reason why I think his are always stronger than everybody else's. Because lots of times, like the hollow pins would snap when he did the weight hang things. That's how they would fail. The pins would snap. And this one, look how far you have to pull it back before it releases. It's right about, it actually gets hard to pull it back that far. Right there. See all that distance it's got to move? And that's one thing that makes this one safe to me. Because I don't know, like I should pull out some of my Benchmades and stuff and I had them out so I could show you guys, but like an Axis lock or any of the other locks, Axis lock or Ram lock, Able lock, they all, if you just pull the release back just a little bit, the blade drops. This one doesn't do that. You have to pull it way back here. They did that on purpose because they didn't want this to be failing. They didn't want this knife blade to be coming down and failing on people if it did a butt in. So I think this one is built to be safe, and they did this to be safe too. Because I know this, look how far away my finger is from the blade. It looks like I'm doing something dangerous, doesn't it? This is way safer than any of my triads, as far as like closing the knife. I feel a lot safer with this one. And the blade did have to be cut out like this because the blade stop inside of here that keeps the blade from hitting the backspacer. It lands right here. Lands right in here. Right there. And if it was to come up higher, the blade would be poking out of the handle. So it has to be where it has to be. And it can't go down lower because it'll hit the lock bar. So it has to be where it has to be, people. I know Matthew Culbertson, I like to watch his videos too. Matthew Culbertson, he was complaining about this cutout right here because it does snag. It's happened to me. Open up packages, sometimes you'll snag right here and then you just pull it all the way through. But it does snag sometimes because there's like a little gap right here, and if whatever you're opening gets caught right there, it'll snag for a second. That does happen. He's absolutely right about that. But I think that's just the way that this one's designed. The only way you can get around that is to regrind the blade. And I wouldn't do that. I like this blade just the way it is, people. I just hope that the heat treat's okay on these. Donnie Be Good all day is going to send his blade out to get heat treated. He's going to heat treat it up here because he wants to see what the heat treatment is. And I'll be watching his videos because I want to find out what the heat treat is. Because I hope this might be a fluke though, because sometimes it happens. People, things in the factory aren't always perfect. This one feels perfect. I love it. I love it. It brings out the pirate in me. Aye, me bucko, shipmates forever. I love it, people. I think that's all I wanted to talk about on this one. That's the only thing I felt like mentioning. Talking about the experiences that, Donnie Be Good had. I feel for him, because I know he really liked his blade. I know it upset him when it got bent, and then, really upset him when Cold Steel didn't back their product. But, that's why I buy Cold Steel products nowadays, because I originally bought Towel Wars when they re-released them, because they asked everybody if they want what blades they wanted. I told them I want the XL Towel Wars, and they made the XL Towel Wars. And I got me a set of brand new S35EN Towel, GSM S35EN Towel Wars when they first released them. When they very first released them, the very first batch of them. And both of mine went in a total lock blade mode. What I call lock blade mode is like when it locks up so tight you can't unlock it, via the lock bar. You have to like press it against a table or something to get it unlocked. And Cold Steel wouldn't let me send them in because I bought them off a seller on eBay. That they were Cold Steel knives. They weren't knockoffs. They were so new that knockoffs hadn't even been made yet. So, I don't know. And that turned me off to Cold Steel for a while, people. And that's when I started getting into all the different knives, like Spyderco's and I don't know. I already liked the Manix 2XL. I had one of those. And that's like my first knife other than a Cold Steel in a long time. But before I got into Cold Steels, I used to be a Benchmade person. And then I got into Cold Steels. And I like Spyderco's too. But I think the best fighting folders, if you want a folder for a self-defense knife, I think you can't beat a Cold Steel knife. Whether you have the Triad folder or the Atlas lock. I love the Atlas lock too. I would like to see them do more with the Atlas lock. I'd like to see them make a mega folder with a 5 to maybe 6 inch blade. 5-inch blade is cool too. Maybe a 5 to 6 inch blade. That's more like, let's say, like a what model? I'm trying to think of a model. Like a Frenzy, about the size of a Frenzy, and be like in between 6 to 7 ounces. It'd be awesome if they could make something like that with the Atlas lock. I'd buy, I don't know, 5 or 6 of them. I would love that knife, because that would be like a really nice stiletto. Or make a Tie-Light 6 with the Atlas lock. Ooh, Tie-Light 6 with the Atlas lock. And make the Atlas lock like this, where it has to travel back far and it doesn't come unlocked super easy. This lock has to travel back far, and then when you get back to here, it's hard to make it go back further, because I have to actually use like a lot of finger pressure. This is a beautiful knife, people. And it's fidget friendly. It loves to fidget. The only thing I would do is I wouldn't close it like this too often, where you close it like that. And if you let it slam, because the blade stop inside of here is like a standard size blade stop that Cold Steel uses for all their blades that aren't as heavy as this one. And I could see it damaging the blade stop after a while, if you just like slam it against the blade stop all the time. So I wouldn't do that. That's the reason why you see me always close it like I would a Triad lock, because it makes it easier on the blade stop like that. I don't want to damage the blade stop. Because, you know, I could, you know, close it like this, but I choose not to. Because I want this knife to last. I really like it. That's why I do with my knives, people that I like. I take care of them. I don't like thrash them and stuff. The only knives that you'll ever see me like be really rough on are camp knives or wood crafting knives. You know, knives that are meant to be used that way. I don't think of this as a wood crafting knife or a camp knife or a survival knife. This is a fighter. This is a folding fighter. And the difference between a folding fighter and, let's say, a camp knife, even though they both may be really big, a folding fighter is meant to be fast. A camp knife is meant to be heavy duty. There's a difference there. Fast and heavy duty aren't always the same thing. This one I would call heavy duty and fast. But the blade type, when you get to this section of the blade, this is not heavy duty up here. I would say from about right here forward, this is where it thins out. So from right about here, so here's your reinforcement line right here. And it goes high instead of going to the blade tip. That's why the blade's not. Maybe if they brought the blade tip up higher along with the reinforcement line, it might be stronger that way. But, you know, this blade's not going to be too strong anyway because it's only like 3.7 millimeters thick. And for the size of this knife and the thickness of this blade stock, you know, because like blade stock like this is pretty common in cold steel knives that have like a 4-inch blade, you know, regular size pocket knife. So I wouldn't be trying to expect this one. This is not a super thick blade stock. It's only 3.7 millimeters thick. The reason why this knife is heavy is because of the width of it. It's wide. It's not narrow and thick. It's wide. Like I said, it's a big, giant slicer. I think this would chop right through, you know, I don't know. I think this would remove body parts. I'm getting gross. But this is a big slicer, people. That's the way I think of these. Don't think of it as a throwing knife or a camp knife. This is a fighting knife. You know, I'm gonna call it what it is. I'm not gonna pretend like it's something that it's not. That's all I want to put out there, people. Peace out, Stiletto.